got done with grade school, you have an infinite amount of time in your free hands, and you just got into the college of your dreams. Now imagine being told why you got into that college. It's because you're black, or you're Asian, or you're Mexican, or any other minority group. Now, wait a second. Does this sound right to you guys? Good morning, everyone. My name is George. My partner Colin and I will show you why our resolution resolved that the U.S. federal government should abolish the policy of affirmative action, education, and/or employment should be taken into effect. What is affirmative action, you guys might ask? According to the Oxford Dictionary of 2011, affirmative action is defined as an action or policy favoring those who tend to suffer from discrimination, especially in relation to employment and/or education. As stated by the New York Times, affirmative action was first implemented during World War II by President FDR, but there was no real enforcement to impose this action. It wasn't until the 1960s when President JFK established the Committee on Equal Employment, demanding that projects given federal funds take affirmative action to keep racial bias out of employment and hiring practices. Soon after, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. All in all, many presidents have added to affirmative action to strengthen it. But returning to the root of the problem of affirmative action, it gives an unequal opportunity for a minority group over a majority group. This is also known as reverse discrimination. The colleges give lower standards to these minority students, letting them in without the same amount of work required as other students. According to BalancePolitics.org, a minority student could get into Harvard on a 3.2 GPA rather than a 4.0 GPA. How could this ever be viewed as fair? Elliot Larson sums up this point of affirmative action by saying, quote, affirmative action is the attempt to deal with malignant racism by instituting benign racism, end quote. This has also been shown in many court cases. Many minority students have been accepted over a majority student. Found on PBS.org, in the Grutter versus Bollinger case of 2003, Barbara Grutter, part of a racial majority, sued the University of Michigan Law School because the law school uses race as a predominant factor, giving applicants belonging to a certain minority group a significantly greater chance of admission than students from a disfavored racial group. When the law school lost its case, yes, Michigan was charged with unlawful admission. The quote responded by saying it would be happy to find a race-neutral way of admission. Quote, the court takes the law school at its word that it would like nothing better than to find a race-neutral admission formula and will terminate its use of racial preferences as soon as practical. The courts expect that 25 years from now, the use of racial preferences will no longer be necessary to further the interest approved today, end quote. This quote here plainly states that affirmative action is a temporary solution to racism, 25 years in fact, and will eventually be replaced. Furthermore, narrowing down into the actual court case, the fact that Michigan lost proves that affirmative action is also unlawful, since it discriminates against, in this case, the majority, funny enough. This unlawful treatment is also shown in the workforce, which brings me to my second contention. Affirmative action promotes the Robin Hood effect. As said by LeGriff.com, the Robin Hood effect is where income is distributed unequally. For instance, an example shown is the amount of added income a minority employee makes to the added income a white employee makes. A black employee makes an average $94,000 more than the average white worker who has the same rank and job, and a Hispanic makes about $4,000 more. This is detrimental in two ways. One, it gives minorities an unfair advantage since they get more money, and two, it also indirectly shows that a black person needs more money to care for themselves than a white person, thus reverse discrimination by first treatment. As written in 1776 in the Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson, quote, all men are created equal, end quote. So if everyone's created equal, shouldn't they all get the equal income if they are equal? A black person the same as a white or Hispanic. They have limbs, they have ears, they have eyes, and they have a brain. So they can perform the same actions and they should earn the same for what they do. Third, affirmative action in the real world today is just not needed. I cite the election of President Barack Obama. He is an African American who has achieved the highest office in our nation. This proves that anyone today can overcome the color barriers of before and become anything they truly wish to be. They must only work for it. As stated earlier in my first argument, if a student wants to get into Harvard, then they should work for a 4.0 GPA. They need to do all the studying and get the grades that are required. If they don't get in, well, sucks to be you, I guess. To completely sum everything up, affirmative action is simply wrong and must be repealed. The courts have said it, and so has the law. Vote for equality, vote for affirmative.